We have a very special guest alert because today we are bringing on Chargers expert Chris Hayre, and he's going to tell you why there is still hope for this 2025 team.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. As always, to make sure you don't miss big-time guest interviews like the one that we have today, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. And I'm really excited. I know the interview went really well, and we have a lot of great stuff, including where he is finding hope for this Chargers 2025 team, even after that blowout loss to the Jaguars. Also, what he thinks the return of Omarion Hampton will do for this team, and exactly what this team needs to figure out to beat the teams necessary to make the playoffs in 2025. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Here he is, Chris Hayre. All right, guys, well, we have a very special guest that we've been promising all week, and here he is. We have Chris Hayre here. Super excited to get him on the show today, especially with a 7-4 season, and I think Chargers fans needing some hope. But if you recognize him, it's probably because he's the host of the Chargers Weekly podcast. He's also a sports anchor and reporter for CBS Los Angeles. Chris, thanks so much for joining, man.
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Good to see you guys. Haven't talked to you in a while, so it's good to catch up, and hopefully on the right side of things here as we close this season strong, hopefully for the Chargers.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of where I want to start, man. Like, I wouldn't wish anyone to have to sit with the loss the Chargers had for 2 weeks after the bye. Obviously, a good time to have a bye, a lot to try to figure out, but at the same time, you have to sit with it, and you can't kind of get that taste out of your mouth. Like, I wish there was a Thursday night football game after the blowout that we saw, just so we could get past that Jaguars game. But I think in general, Chargers fans are pretty down after that blowout loss, and it feels like they lost kind of all of the goodwill they had built up during the 3-game winning streak that led up to it, which is easy to forget about right now. But with the tough schedule ahead, I think fans are having a hard time finding that hope. What would you say are the reasons to be hopeful about this Chargers 2025 team?
Well, I think if you just – listen, we can't do it, but if you just erase what happened in Jacksonville and you see what happened the 3 games prior, especially that Pittsburgh game, that Pittsburgh game, I left that game that evening at SoFi Stadium saying, you know what, the Chargers defense is going to be the unit that carries these guys throughout the rest of the year and maybe even in the playoffs. I firmly – and I still believe that. Now, what we saw in Jacksonville – kind of dashed those hopes in really all 3 phases. I mean, I travel with the team, and I usually have a pretty good sense of like kind of where the team is. And I have to admit, I felt like these guys were ready to roll. They were going to close this stretch of their season. And just think about how long it's been, right? You start training camp earlier than everybody. You go to Canton for the Hall of Fame game, have an extra preseason game. You go to Brazil. You're cross country, man. Like you go to New York, then Miami, then Tennessee, then back again, Jacksonville. And I am by like no means making excuses for an NFL team who travels well. And, it's one thing to have a ton of miles, but these guys did have another 10 a.m. kickoff on the West Coast. And it just didn't click from the beginning. And I think anybody who watched that game in that first quarter knew that this probably wasn't going to be a great day in all 3 phases. So, I mean, I think, with a loss like that, all you can do is essentially just flush it and move on. And a guy like Khalil Mack, there's leaders on this team that I think will get some of these players, especially players who maybe haven't been there before, haven't been in the league a long time, get them in the right frame of mind moving forward. And I mean, you want optimism. You're 7-4. You're 3-0 in the division still. Like, you can't take those first 3 weeks away from the Chargers. And I think that they're sitting in a enviable position right now because of what happened those first 3 weeks. Now, it goes without saying, you got to take care of the Raiders to get to 8-4. And then you kind of look at the path to the postseason. So I almost look at the season from like right now, this week, it's almost like 3 different buckets. It's like, all right, A, how do you beat the Raiders? B, what's the path to the postseason? And C, once you get there, how can you make damage and do damage? We saw what happened in Houston last year. That can't happen again this year. And it's easier said than done when you're down Alt and you're down Slater. But we've seen flashes from this team, and I think that starting obviously against the Raiders on Sunday, get to 8-4, and then kind of see where you are as a football team, recalibrate, and get ready for the Eagles.
Yeah, the last game was such a disaster, and it was even harder to swallow because it was followed by the bye week, and they have to sit with that for 2 weeks with that taste in their mouths. First, how much does a blowout, do the Chargers kind of be attributed to being burnt out? And second, how much can this bye week help them, especially with Jim Harbaugh giving them some extra rest?
Yeah, I can do nothing but help them. I kind of rattled off their schedule. I mean, it's been an absolute grind for these guys. And again, NFL teams, the last thing they'll do is give you an excuse on why they're not playing up to par. But I mean, the proof's in the pudding. On the West Coast, or the East Coast rather, the Chargers just have not played well this year. They did not play well in Week 4 against the Giants. They did not play well, frankly, against the Dolphins for much of that game, and had to come back miraculously at the end to win it. They did not play good against the Titans in that game. When the Tennessee Titans are, scoring 14 points in a blink because of a special teams mishap and a pick six, that's not a good sign. So I think that this bye was needed for a lot of reasons. To recharge. Dan, you mentioned at the beginning, I'm sure these guys want to get back out there, almost similar to the Colts game where you get blown out, you want to get back out there and kind of avenge it and forget about it. They've had to sit with this one for 2 weeks. You look at the bye week, nothing really went right for them in terms of the schedule. The Chiefs beat the Colts. The Texans have creeped back into things. The Colts are still 8-3, but now you got the Jags who barely squeaked out a win against the Cardinals. The Bills dropped a game, so now they're kind of jumbled up with the Chargers there. So right now I see there's 7 spots and there's 10 teams, and there's 3 teams that are going to be left out. And, if you just do the math, like I look at the path to the playoffs for the Chargers, obviously Sunday, but that game in Kansas City, in that game at home against the Texans where they're going to be wearing those navies again, those may be the 3 games that decide the Chargers season. Obviously, you want to win them all. You want to win the Cowboys game, the Eagles game, that Week 18 game against the Broncos that may or may not mean anything. But I look at those 3 games starting Sundays, just take care of the team you got to take care of. And then I'm circling at Arrowhead coming off that Monday night game. And then the Texans with that punishing defense. It was tough to see Josh Allen get beat up like that on Thursday night and thinking that they're coming to SoFi in a month or so. So the Chargers, it's not going to be an easy close to the season, but I think they have it in them to at least just kind of go 3-3 or even 4-2 and get into the postseason.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I watched that Bills-Texans game. Thursday Night Football brings weird results for sure, but that defense looked mean. That defense looked fast. That defense looked hungry for that Texans team. And, we saw it, right? It's not like you have to tell Chargers fans how good that defense is. It's like they lived it. But I do want to go back to what you were talking about, the 3 different buckets, right? First of all, with the schedule that it comes ahead, this is a must-win game this weekend. You can't afford to drop this one and realistically think you're going to beat the teams necessary to go and make a playoff run, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's something to this because you also said, okay, hey, then you kind of reset, you're 8-4, you go from there and you figure out how to beat these teams. And then you decide to, figure out if you can do some damage once you get there. One of the things we talked about is the nice thing kind of about the Chargers being pushed up and pushed back into a corner a little bit, even at 7-4 and hopefully 8-4 is I know it's hard to believe right now that their ceiling is getting to the playoffs and that maybe they can't win a playoff game this year. But I think what this brutal stretch of games, because I think even the Cowboys offense is going to present problems for them, right? Because the good offenses have for Jesse Minter's defense. The good thing is, Chris, is it feels to me, and I'm wondering if you feel the same way, if they do what it takes to go make the playoffs this year, they're going to have to have proven basically that they have a chance to win once they get there, because it means that they're going to have to go up against that Texans defense and get a win, or beat the Philadelphia Eagles on a Monday Night Football game, or go to Arrowhead and win that game. Do you kind of agree with that logic? Because I do think people feel well, is it even worth making the playoffs if you're just going to lose when you get there? But to me, it's man, if you're making the playoffs, even sitting at 7-4 right now, you're going to have to beat some really good playoff caliber teams. We have more to get into with Chris Hayre, including why he believes the Chargers could win a playoff game if they beat the requisite teams to make it to the dance, and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel, because the NBA is back and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. The odds are out now for the Chargers' upcoming game against the Raiders at SoFi. And we know how bad the Raiders are. The Chargers are currently 9.5-point favorites. It can't be understated how important this game is. Like, the Chargers have, and this might not be the only must-win game they're going to face during these last 6 games to make it to the playoffs, but make no mistake about it. This is a must-win game, and the Chargers better win by at least 9.5 points. So you can bet on that and so much more at FanDuel, because if they don't, they can probably kiss their playoff chances goodbye. But right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
It's a great point. And you look at the schedule last year, you win 11 games, but look at the teams and the quarterbacks that you beat versus this year already. I mean, it goes without saying the first 3 weeks, but like they've had some big wins during this stretch of the season that's been really tough. And I agree with you. I think that if you get to the postseason, that means that you've beaten some really good teams down the stretch too to get there. And why not? Like it was a little bit of fool's gold at the end of last year. I remember being in New England when they took care of the Patriots and they looked like they were really humming going into the postseason. Beat the Raiders in week 18. You get the matchup you think you won against the Houston Texans, and then it was just a nightmare.
Careful what you wish
for.
for.
Plays that could have gone the Chargers' way that maybe would have changed the complexion of that game. But I think it was a little bit of fool's gold. I think this year we've seen the Chargers kind of gut out wins. I just go to the beginning of the year, the way they gutted that one out against Kansas City in Brazil, and then just the ridiculous pitch and catch from Justin to Keenan to beat the Broncos and Cameron Dicker with the game winner. That they haven't lost since that game. And I just look at the AFC this year, guys. Like who scares you? Like who? Like in all three units. Like which team in the AFC scares you? And I can't say there's one team that stands out as like this big bad wolf of the AFC. I just don't see it. Like I think New England's had a really nice year. I think they're very young. The Bills have been up and down. I would still probably put the Bills as the class of the AFC right now, even if they're 7-4. I think the Texans have a Super Bowl defense and a mediocre offense. And I go down, like we saw what the Steelers are. You saw kind of what the Chiefs are. I think the Chiefs are beatable. And the Broncos, say what you want, again, another Super Bowl caliber defense, but I just don't know if I trust that offense in January. So why not, right? Like, why not close the season the right way, get in the postseason and see what happens? Because you've already taken down some of these teams that are like considered contenders in the AFC. And I think, I think we'd be singing a different tune right now if number 76 is playing left tackle. I would maybe put the Chargers in that conversation is like maybe the team to beat in the AFC. I'm not even kidding. It's like that injury, like the Slater one was a crushing blow. To have both of those guys, man, I give the Chargers offense a lot of credit for kind of hanging in, because there was really no playbook to lose both tackles. And again, there's a lot that could be said about the offensive line and things that maybe could have been done in the offseason that weren't done, but again, there's no playbook for losing like the best tackle tandem in football and still be in football games. And now they just have to kind of scheme around that and figure out a way to get in the postseason. All these teams have injuries, some more than others. Some have already crushed team seasons, like Cincinnati and Washington come to mind. But Chargers are still in it because they have a franchise quarterback. They have a coach that knows how to win. And I think they have a defense that can do some damage.
all you need is a ticket to the dance, right? And then after that, you got to see what happens. But you got to get there first. But I know one of the reasons for hope is that Omarion Hampton will return to the lineup this year when he returns from injured reserve. Do you think there's a chance we see him this week? And what do you think he brings back to this offense once he returns?
Well, I'm very intrigued to hear Coach Harbaugh at the podium this week to see if we will see him Sunday. I think that the Chargers should be able to beat the Raiders without Omarion Hampton, but I think getting him in the fold and maybe getting him in the mix and at least a few touches if he's able, that would be great ahead of going to the Chiefs in 2 weeks and then, a Monday Night Football game at home sandwiched in between. So, listen, I think Omarion Hampton is going to make the offensive line look better. He's going to help with time of possession. Like, that was the one thing that just was crushing for the Chargers a couple Sundays ago is they were dominating time of possession the previous 3 games, like 39 minutes, 37 minutes, 35 minutes. They held the ball for 22 minutes. They could get nothing going. And I give Kimani Vidal a lot of credit for holding it down. But I think Omarion Hampton is just going to be able to bring this offense to another level. We saw that small sample size with what he did in New York and almost single-handedly winning that game for the Chargers in a game that, they made mistake after mistake, 14 penalties. I think that Hampton can really be a differentiator for the Chargers in December. And I am very intrigued to see if he can come back on Sunday and what he looks like. And I think having enough time off to, the ankle, I don't know about you guys. When I saw the ankle injury, I didn't think he'd be out I didn't think it'd be an IR situation, but here we are. And again, like what are you just watching the game? But
sure.
But
he got tripped though, right? Like it wasn't like you didn't see the ankle get totally folded up underneath him or anything like that. Like even comparatively to Joe Alt, right? Like both the times he hurt his ankle, it was like, oh man, he's like carted off the field.
This guy's trucking dudes. He's so physical too. It's just like that. You just feel like a guy who's as durable as he was in North Carolina is going to get right back up. But I do think that he's a secret weapon. I really do. And I'm intrigued to see what he looks like in December for sure. And I hope we do see him against the Raiders.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, even if, like obviously they don't have the luxury of being able to be like, okay, well, we can rest him one more week if he's ready, right? Like if he's ready, he's got to be out there. Like these are just all, every game is so important at this point, even with what their record is, especially because of the convoluted nature of the AFC playoff race, right? Like this is a must-win game. But yeah, you don't want to overexert him if you don't have to. I mean, man, if you can make the Raiders look like they have for most of the season, like you shouldn't need him to be playing, into the fourth quarter.
If he's ready, it's like there's no reason not to put him out there. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. And like I think, obviously we've all just been trying to read the tea leaves, and it's like, oh, hey, well, at least in this game he doesn't have a walking boot, right? Like maybe that means he's coming back. And I think there is just this kind of feeling of like, man, I really can't wait to hear what Jim Harbaugh says, because unlike some other news, it feels like when guys' windows get opened, it's from Jim Harbaugh's mouth himself. And I think that's really a testament to kind of the closed-lip nature of this organization and kind of the tight ship that they're running there. But like, yeah, Kimani Vidal, so impressive. Like has shown that he can be a back in this league. Like that is so cool for that dude to get cut this year and to be able to be like, no, I am a player who can play at this level. And I think he's done exceptionally well, especially considering the blocking that's in front of him. But I mean, me and David talked about Omarion Hampton. Like the dude has 22 missed tackles forced and 66 carries. He's breaking a tackle every 3 carries, where you have Bajan at like 3.3 and Jonathan Taylor 3.9. Same with Jahmyr Gibbs. Omarion Hampton, underrated, really, really good so far this year. And it sucks that they spoiled kind of his blowout game in that Giants loss because he was fantastic in it. And also, he kind of showed that he could be the engine of an offense. I mean, we're talking about a dude before the injury who had 130 yards from scrimmage in back-to-back games before he ended up getting hurt. But we have more great stuff to get into with Chris Hayre, including the unsung hero he thinks this team has, and also exactly what they need to do to make the playoffs in 2025 and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
This roster has some obvious deficiencies. It's the reason, that they don't only have 2 losses, right? We all know that. And it's been only magnified by the major injuries that they have. But the one thing that the Chargers did exceptionally well, and it'd be really hard to argue against, was replenishing the offensive weapons in this arsenal, right? Omarion Hampton, Trey Harris, Oronde Gadsden II, all those dudes making really significant contributions in their rookie seasons. How impressed are you with this year's rookie class and Joe Ortiz kind of restocking the cabinet with some young, cheap, explosive options that this team will have going forward?
They've been awesome. Joe, I think I joked in the offseason that, guys like Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still, pair of 5th-round picks, turn into starting quarterbacks. We were talking about Oronde Gadsden in training camp. And I was like, if Oronde Gadsden pops, another 5th-rounder, I think it was the lead up to the Hall of Fame. I was like, they should put Joe Ortiz in Canton if he gets another 5th-round home run. And sure enough, he has with Oronde Gadsden. Man, he's been incredible. And I knew it was just a matter of time before he saw the field. You saw the flashes in OTAs and training camp, and obviously in the preseason. You brought Tyler Conklin in as kind of a veteran presence, and Will Dissly was already in the fold. But to see Oronde kind of take that job, and now he has not letting go of it. It's his for sure. He's the future in that tight ends room. It's been really kind of refreshing to see a young guy like that just catch on so quickly, learn from mistakes. I know that he had that fumble in Miami and just bounce back right away, and just the games that he had at SoFi following. It's been really cool to see him. Trey Harris is a guy. I love his story is maybe even more because he's not getting the targets, but he's doing all the dirty work to stay on the field, the blocking. He's doing everything in his power just to play football and play meaningful reps, and he's delivering in the reps that he's getting. He's making tough catches, but just to see how willing of a blocker he's been to go with Keenan and Ladd and Quentin. It's a really complete room. And, I know that Ladd and Quentin were in that Houston game, but outside of that, man, there was not much going on in that game. A lot of quick passes to Tucker, Fisk, and Will Dissly, and that's just not what we're seeing this year. I honestly, I'd like to see more Quentin. I think that they've gotten away from Quentin a little bit. And I know there's a lot of mouths to feed in that room, but I just think Quentin's athleticism, especially if you got to get the ball out of your hand quickly, maybe kind of get him in space. To have Oronde as a security blanket, I think is a big deal. And I wonder if that Jacksonville game kind of recalibrates the thinking of Greg Roman and company as to what they may have to do moving forward, either across the offensive line or just game plan wise, and how you integrate Omarion Hampton back and how you can be a fully functioning offense despite having some issues at the offensive line position. I am very intrigued to see what that's going to look like as well. What are these last 6 weeks going to show us about this Chargers offense? Who are they? Yeah. How can they adjust to some of the adversity that they've had across the line? And how can some of these playmakers maybe be used in different ways to make this team successful?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's going to be the greatest questions, right? Is how do they utilize this bye week to try to fix these problems that they're going to have to solve down the stretch against some very, very difficult teams. But we all know how good players like Justin Herbert, Khalil Mack, and Derwin James are. But the Chargers have gotten contributions up and down the roster through 11 games. Who is someone that might not be a household name that you think has kind of been an unsung hero for the Chargers this year?
Well, he may be one now. I mean, the way Odafe Owe just burst onto the scene since he became an LA Charger, I think he had 4 sacks in 4 games. And just to see a guy, it's not easy. I don't care what position you play. It's not easy to be a Baltimore Raven, then get put on a plane to Los Angeles, and all of a sudden have to learn new teammates and a new scheme, even though there's similarities, and just a whole new city. And for him to kind of come in, get that sack right away in Miami, get a couple in Tennessee, and just kind of be that almost missing link in the edge room. Like, clearly you missed Joey Bosa at the beginning of the year, right? That you had that rotation with him and Mack and Thule, and they just weren't able to get much production outside of Thule when Mack was out. So now that Khalil's back, I just think that Odafe Alohi trade was a win-win on both sides. I love Alohi, and I wish that he was still here, but I understand why they made the move. And even a guy like RJ Mickens, like, there's a reason why you felt comfortable parting ways with Alohi, because RJ was coming on, and a couple of picks in 2 primetime games. So those would probably be 2. Like, you go from we talk about some of these other rookies. How about RJ Mickens, a 6th-round pick who's playing meaningful snaps in the secondary for a team that's
unreal,
about to be 8-4. So I would say those guys on defense for sure, Odafe and RJ Mickens.
Yeah, well, and that's the funny thing about that, Chris, is I'm glad you brought up RJ Mickens, because I was like, man, think about the guy who's taking the place of Alohi Gilman, right? RJ Mickens has been awesome, and like, maybe we take for granted these late round picks in the secondary being able to do what they have been able to do, and also maybe take for granted how good that Joe Ortiz has been putting this secondary together. Because when you think about it, man, the only picks he spent, right, 2 5th-round picks, Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still, RJ Mickens a 6th-round pick, and then you have like bargain kind of contracts with Christian Fulton, and this year with Dante Jackson, who has been otherworldly. Like, that's been incredible. And shout out to Steve Klinkscale as well, right? Who also deserves his flowers when you're having that conversation. But when they traded for Odafe Owe, I liked the player. I liked the trade immediately. It's like, hey, we couldn't have figured out a different round pick maybe to send him. Like, you know what I mean? Because Joe Ortiz has been so good with those 5th-round picks, it makes it that much harder to see one go. But we'll get you out on this, man. I mean, I know that, like, obviously there's been a lot, and like, that's happened to get the Chargers to this point. And I love the pass rush and that specific trio. And I think, obviously, the run defense has to get a lot better for us to see them, right, more, and for them to be more effective. But, like, when you're trying to boil it down to this kind of inconsistent team who's won 3 games by double digits and has also lost 3 games by 14 or more, what do you think they have to get figured out during this bye week down the stretch to make the playoffs and have the run that we need them to make?
Well, I agree with you. I think stopping the run been a big problem all year. That Miami game comes to mind. The Washington game comes to mind with Krusky Merritt and him running rampant. Then you thought they kind of figured some things out, and then I think Jacksonville rushed for 192 yards, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what it was.
So the run defense is going to have to shore up. Yeah, that's something that just, you can't allow big plays to guys like Saquon Barkley and Ashton Genty, and who knows who the Chiefs are going to roll out. Kareem Hunt, I know they just picked up Pierce as well. So I mean, and if you get to January, you're going to have to stop the run. There's no question about it. And then, it goes without saying, the offensive line. I would be interested to see if they maybe make up maybe make a lineup change to some of these positions. I don't know. Maybe you put Sawyer at left tackle. I don't know if Andre James will ever get a shot this year. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. I don't know. Again, I say that the coaches know more than you or I, right? Sure. And they're comfortable with their group. But I just think that at this point, you don't have much to lose by maybe kind of tinkering a little bit and kind of finding that right group throughout the final 6 games of the year. Now, I don't know. I honestly don't have the answer. Like Trevor Penning just got here, right? He just got here. Sawyer we've seen. I do remember when in 21 when Slater went down, how serviceable he was at left tackle. So I wouldn't mind maybe seeing him there for a game and seeing how that goes. It's funny to say, but like Bobby Hart played pretty good in the few games that he's played for the Chargers. So I do think it kind of starts on both lines, man. Starts in the trenches. If you're going to win football games in January, you're going to have stout defensive and offensive lines. So starting there, you have the franchise quarterback, you have the weapons. Hopefully you have the running game with Hampton and Vidal kind of spelling him. Special teams, I have a lot of faith in Ryan Fickett. I know it's been kind of up and down this year. You have the best kicker in football. So just show us what you got, man, the last 6 weeks. Show us what you got across the defensive line and offensive line, because if those guys play pretty good football, serviceable football, I think this team has a real shot.
I think they do too, but thank you so much, Chris, for joining the show today. Again, you can find him at Chris Hayre on Twitter. He's the host of the Chargers Weekly podcast, the best Chargers content you're going to find with them, and also sports anchor and reporter for CBS Sports Los Angeles. Thank you so much for your time, man. Can't wait to get you back on again soon.
My guys, appreciate you very much. Enjoy it.
Another special thank you to Chris Hayre for making some time for us. That man has a busy schedule, and we appreciate him coming on and giving us the time he did today. You don't find many 30, 25-minute interviews out there that most people are willing to do on these shows, so we really appreciate his time and his insight, and I definitely feel a lot better about the Chargers situation. But that is going to wrap things up for today's show. This schedule is going to be a little bit different this week because of Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday. We will have a Thanksgiving show for you guys that comes out on Thursday because it's Crossover Thursday, and Crossover Thursday does not stop for any turkey. I will tell you that right now, but we will be off on Friday so we can enjoy Thanksgiving with our families. But what that means is, it means tomorrow is the keys for success, including getting Justin Herbert back on track. But what it also means is that we're going to open up for fan bold predictions. So make sure you guys hit us up at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page, so that you guys can be featured on the bold prediction show and maybe make some magic and have something come true. And then we also post the show to all those places as well. Or you can call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 and give us your 30-second Chargers voicemail there. But thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NFL show so you can keep up with everything going on around the league, because there's 2 shows a day with Tyler the Madman Rowland and Tony Wiggins in the Barbershop on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. But make sure, as always, you are following and subscribing to the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from so you never miss big episodes like the one we have today. Chargers need to get Justin Herbert back on track. We'll be talking about it tomorrow on the keys for success in a must-win game against the Raiders. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.